This is the Coach's Wife Life podcast. I'm Kristen Eargle, your host, a former TV sports reporter and fellow college football coach's wife. I'll go one-on-one with the strong women who are the backbone of college athletics and athletics of all levels. And now, Coach's Wife Life.
This podcast is brought to you by Ruler of Hope. Ruler of Hope is a nonprofit that supports medically fragile children. If you'd like to make a tax-deductible donation, you can use Venmo at Ruler-Hope or online at rulerofhope.org.
Hey there, I'm Kristen Eargle, and we have an exciting podcast ahead. But first I want to talk about something we all know way too much about, moving. Just the thought of that can bring an unsettling emotion. Well, I found a team that can take that load off your plate. It's D1 Relocation. This group can do it all. They can organize your move, coordinate with a moving company, and a trusted real estate agent. They can actually vet key household partners such as schools, insurance agents, physicians in the area. They can even help set up your Wi-Fi and water. It's incredible. So I've come to know this team, which is actually founded by a coach's wife. I think you should check it out, whether you're looking to move now or in the future. It's d1relocation.com. Now on to our awesome podcast. It is my honor to bring Shalin Klein on the podcast. Shalin is from Kansas State. Her husband is the offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach there, Collin Klein. Shalin, thank you so much for being a part of us today.
Oh my gosh, thank you, Kristen, for having me.
I've been looking forward to having you on the podcast. A little recap of your career. 2022 Big 12 champions. He's a second year as an OC. Now, if you look back a little bit further, not too far long ago, he was a Heisman Trophy finalist, Johnny Unitas Golden Arm Award, Big 12 Athlete of the Year. You played basketball yourself at Kansas State, academic, all Big 12. I mean, from both of you, athletes in the family, I have so many questions to ask with this. But first, we're going to start with, not every coach can go from highly successful on the field to turning around and getting that from their student athletes. That's a unique skill. So how do you think he's been able to transition? What's the key for that for him?
I think he remembers what it was like as a player. I remember so many conversations when he was kind of trying to decide what he was going to do between playing, coaching, all the things. And, we remembered what it was like to be a player. And I think he does such a good job of always kind of bringing it back to that, bringing it back to ground zero. I also just think he does a great job of keeping it real, relating to his players, connecting with his players. To him, it's about relationships. It's about the relationships he builds. That's why he does what he does and why he loves what he does. And so he falls in love with the guys. They fall in love with him, just like I fell in love with him. So here we are.
I hear all of those things. I did a little research on you as well. You come from an incredible college football family.
Yeah.
In the Hall of Fame. Gary Spaney, did I say that right?
You did.
And also with the Chiefs as well,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Hall of Famer there with the Chiefs.
Yep.
What a unique perspective as a coach's wife now, having grown up in that life. And there he also played at Kansas State. I mean, that's rare and all of that right there. So, walk me through that experience. Your first impression of college football was from a very special place.
Honestly, it's really all I can remember. I don't think I have a memory. Honestly, my first memory is driving a golf cart with my dad at a Chiefs game. He retired post being a Chief. After I was born. So I didn't get the luxury of being able to see him play, but everyone brags about it, whatever. I'm like, I don't know, Dad. I think you made those stories up. Anyway, I do remember being on the golf cart and just, going tailgate to tailgate because he still worked for the Chiefs and just retired this year, actually. So he was with the organization 43 years between playing and in their front office. And so like you said, it's in my blood. I can't really get away from it. And then all of a sudden I find myself obviously married to it too. It helps me stay familiar. It brings me back to, again, just what I know. So for me, there's a lot in this business that doesn't really shock me, if that makes sense. So I think from a relationship standpoint, for me and Colin, for our family, for how we navigate this crazy life, being familiar with it really, really helps, just because, again, it helps me navigate things from not like I'm so shell shocked or was shell shocked when I just initially started, again, into this crazy business we call football.
Yes. Okay. So when did you and Colin meet? I mean, did you ever expect yourself to be a coach's wife? You were a student athlete. You were a player. I mean, I would imagine your goal and your how driven you are to get to that point.
Yeah.
Is pretty focused on athletics yourself.
100%. I mean, you're married to the game. I mean, absolutely. So, I mean, boys were really just kind of like came and went. You had a little fling here, a fling there, but really there was nothing serious. Because again, when it came down to it, I was picking basketball. Like, let's be honest. Sorry, dude. Like, it is what it is. When you're playing at that high level, the commitment's there. And so, from us meeting, what's really unique about this is we were actually at the same school at Kansas State where I played and he played, for our whole career. And we crossed paths a little bit. I was in a student athlete advisory committee. He was too. We knew of each other, of athletes here and there. I do remember, this is a story I remember, but my freshman year, so I was actually a year ahead of Colin, and then he redshirted. So technically we were 2 grades different. But you get that incoming class of freshman football players, and us basketball players just like to, just take a peek. And so I do remember my very first time I ever like laid eyes on Colin. This is hilarious. I can't believe I'm telling you this. But anyway, my teammate, Kelsey Hill at the time, that was her maiden name. We were getting ready to go to Europe. And so we had this countdown for Europe and all the things. We're so excited. We were going to go play overseas for 10 days. So pumped. But we like catch a glimpse of these like shirtless guys walking back from their run. And I was like, hey, Kelsey, come on over here. And we like look out, and there was 2. It was Colin and then another quarterback at the time. And I remember being like, okay, you take the dark hair, I'll take the light hair. Like, that type thing. Again, like we didn't know. Like we were like, we didn't know what we were doing. Whatever. Anyway, 4 years later, wild, right? We're in the same spot. I mean, again, we knew of each other, whatever. Gosh, I was going into my senior year. He was going into his redshirt junior year. And so I had 7 knee surgeries while I played at Kansas State. It was a wild ride. And so my senior year, I actually did not play. I ended up actually kind of being a student coach and kind of going over a little bit onto the coaching / administration side of basketball. And so that's what kept me in Manhattan. And anyway, how technically Colin and I met. So we would always practice against guys. And his best friend at the time, Samuel Hegarty, Samuel, there's your shout out. Anyway, he's going to be mad at me if I don't, because he always takes credit for this. But he technically lived with Colin. And so his girlfriend is one of my dearest friends now. He is kind of who introduced us, but it was really cool because it's really just how we met is a God thing. It 100% is a God story. I was coming out of an extremely hard time of my life and truly was falling in love with Jesus for truly, I think, the first time. And when you do that, you just kind of like lay everything aside and you just run as fast as you can to Jesus. You don't really look back, to be perfectly honest. And I really needed to do that. And so for me, getting around awesome, solid people that would keep me grounded, that was Samuel, that was Jill, that was that friend group that little did I know Colin kind of ended up being a part of because he was roommates with Samuel. And so that fall, we actually ended up getting kind of a group together of tons of athletes, but some also not, just kind of in and around the house. And we actually do these people are going to laugh, but these worship nights every Sunday, it was like,
love this.
It was literally my lifeblood, Kristen. I can't even tell you. Like we had Victor Ogilvy, Kyle Klein, Collin Klein, Samuel Hegarty, Jacqueline Leffler. There was like a couple other football guys, but like we had Victor singing a cappella. He was a basketball guy. We had Kyle and Colin on the piano and the guitar, and like we were doing worship nights and just like bonding. And then we would just like talk life. Like what, like real talk, like we're talking like real struggles. How are you doing? And meaning it when someone looks at you and are like, how are you doing? And then someone says, well, I'm really struggling here. And then everyone says, okay, we're having a conversation. You know what I mean? Like that type of thing. And so I felt like it was a friend group that we could trust. There was rapport. And it was just such a solid group. We had so much fun. And so from probably like, October, let's say of, I'm trying to think of what year that was. October of 2011 was when kind of that friend group started. And really when Colin and I kind of I got to know him as a friend. And obviously going back to my first glimpse of him, I was like, oh yeah, I mean, he's tall, he's handsome, he's blonde, he's muscular, he's a football player. It's like,
Right.
that works, right? But like,
checks a box.
100%. But it's also one of those things where timing, I mean, all the things, right? It just wasn't the right time, wasn't the right place. And obviously God had a perfect plan in how it kind of would come back full circle, because then 4.5, 5 years later, here we are, October of 2011, and this friend group forms, right? And for me, I still was always kind of attracted to Colin from just a check the box perspective. He fit all the boxes, but I really needed to like know what kind of a guy he was. At this point, he was kind of getting his dip in like starting quarterback, like the whole deal. Like, I think for me, getting to know the guy behind the jersey was so important to me. And I've formed such a great friendship with him and that whole group of guys, whole group of girls. And then probably December of that year, so like October to December, again, my season, his season, I was working at the time because I had graduated in May of that year of 2011. And then he had still 2 seasons because he had redshirted again. So he still was 2 seasons behind me, but we're only 8 months apart. So it was just kind of a weird deal with the whole redshirt deal. So anyway, let's see. So now we're in December. Okay, so this is wild, Kristen. You're just like, this is just, sometimes I like retell this story and it's one of those things where it builds my faith every time because, and it reminds me of truly why you do what you do, and then how like God brings you through and to things, to people for specific times. And so for me, that was this. And so anyway, in December of that year, I felt truly God lay on my heart like he was absolutely like the person I was going to marry. But again, it was one of those things where it went from friendship to not friendship real fast for me. And yet I really just naturally get along with guys a little bit better than girls. I'm just not really high drama. I'm more just like cut to the chase. And so I didn't want to lose the friendship that I had because I had formed such a great relationship with him. And so, or just friendship with him.
Right.
And so, once you kind of cross that line, you don't really go back. So I was like, well, I just don't know. And so, you're just dipping your toes, like trying to test the waters. I'm asking Jill about a couple months before, does he have a girlfriend? Does he not have a girlfriend? Like, where are we at? And so he had just broken up with a girlfriend that summer. But she was like, he's really just focusing on football. He's not really about a relationship. I was like, cool, that's perfect. Like, I can just like swoop in, right? Like, perfect. Anyway, I was just like, no, this is God. This is truly in your hands. Again, I was at such peace with, again, my identity with Christ and kind of him honestly remaking me and my own journey, which was separate from Colin, that then kind of the timing of him bringing us together was like truly divine timing. It truly was. And so it went from, again, friends to not friends really quick. We started talking a lot more in December of that year. And then we were engaged in February and married in July of the next year. So there's a lot of details like in between December to July that I could like probably share 5 hours on.
My goodness.
But, yeah, that was what it was.
Engaged in February and married by that July.
When you go, you just kind of do it.
When you go, I love it. Incredible.
Yeah.
So 2012.
That was a wild year.
Yeah, very much so. And now you have 4 kids, right?
I do. 4 kids in 5 years. Yes.
4 kids. I was like, I think they're kind of close in age.
Yep. I have an almost 5-year-old. I have a 3-year-old, a 2-year-old, and then a 5-month-old. 3 boys, and then we just got our first girl. So
Unbelievable. How precious. And for those that are watching and listening, we are recording this late at night because both of our kids are asleep.
Gotta do what you gotta do.
To be able to communicate with each other.
So true.
So the question I always ask is, do you ever see yourself as a coach's wife? Probably not. You saw yourself as a student athlete and focused on those things.
And honestly, it went so fast that I just kind of fell into, right? Like you just kind of fall in love to the relationship, and then you just get kind of going, right? And then, for him, he transitioned obviously from player to then trying to play in the NFL. You test here, you test there, you just kind of test the waters. It didn't work out. And we're sitting there and he's just kind of like, what's next? And I think he always knew in the back of his mind, staying in football, he loves the game. He loves the guys. He loves the hard challenges and the life lessons that honestly can be taught through this game of football, and the mirroring effect of life and football, and how just, again, the mesh of all of that, from, taking a boy at, 18 years old and then leaving college as a man, and the lessons that you've learned and the brotherhood you've brought, along with you being in the trenches with your guys, all the things, right? And so for him, being able to then almost like pass that to the next generation and the lessons that he's learned, he just had that passion in him. And I saw that. I think he saw that. And, we're both very, we are as competitive as it comes.
I would imagine.
So it is bad, Kristen. I mean, card games, racing to the car. I mean, just like throwing trash in the freaking trash can. Like, come on, bro. Like, it's fine. Don't coach me. It's okay. All right. Anyway, my point is no, I didn't know, but I also wasn't shocked, if that makes sense. And then we also were we were married, right? At 21.
Yeah, you were married in college.
Right, exactly. So we kind of made the decision together where, I've met so many women in this business that they met, obviously their spouse a little bit later, or their decision was already made, or their decision was changed. And so every woman's journey in this whole business is so different. I love hearing all the different stories, but honestly, for me, it was a blessing because I went in with my eyes wide open, and then with my history of football, I knew. And then I'm just a really fiercely independent person. So from a lifestyle perspective, it fits.
Right.
It fits our life well. And so that makes it a little bit easier. Still, there are so many challenges, and I know every single woman in this life knows that so well. And I think they shoulder the world when it comes from, August to, about the next June. Let's just be perfectly honest.
We do not shoulder this, right?
Right. But anyway, so yeah, thankfully I really did go into it.
I started thinking about what you just said and part of your story, which stood out to me, which is, and for those of you, that are like, okay, he was a dynamic quarterback at Kansas State, one of the best that ever played, a Heisman Trophy finalist. I said that. If you don't know all the stats, like Johnny Unitas Golden Arm, you don't just win that. It's prolific quarterback. And so you're at the height of college football.
Yep.
And then obviously it would make sense for everybody to be like, I can be an NFL, pro bowler.
Yep.
For God to have a different path, to me, that would be a little hard to navigate. Be like, okay, he has us doing this, which we're super duper grateful for, and every opportunity we've gotten. But to me, in those few moments, those few years, you're probably working through a little bit of adversity you kind of didn't know you were going to be working through. So my question always is, what is the biggest adversity you faced, and what did you rely on to get through those moments?
Yeah.
I mean, this might not be your big adversity moment, but to me, those would be some tough years to kind of wrap your head around. Having that level of success on such a high level, that would be hard to walk through.
Yep.
Yeah.
100%. You absolutely are correct. And I think what also one of the traits that I adore the most about Colin is his humility. He's the same guy, whether he's sitting with, Heisman Trophy winners and, graciously, losing, obviously heartbreaking that we lost that award, but like walking through the popularity and everything and the fame of that to, like you said, the next year he's GAing for $900 a month at Kansas State. And again, just like the vast difference. And then working now for 10 years to get where he's at. I would 100% say it was a bump in the road, but if you knew Collin, it was like he would walk in there like I'm just one of you. Like I've got to do this just like you got to do this. Like I don't expect, because I technically did X, Y, and Z on the field. Like I didn't do anything in the coaching side of things. I'm literally the bottom of the barrel, and you got to earn every single stripe in this business. And so I respect him beyond for how he kind of walked that out. So from an adversity side, I would say that made us stronger, to be perfectly honest. I think we both, I can bust his little head real quick to just bring him right back down to 0 if we had to. So, I didn't have to do much those years to do that because it just naturally did that. But you see what I'm saying? Like, I think we keep it real for each other. And again, we knew the journey, and like the NFL thing, that's just it. It's timing. It's, there's so many things that goes into that, and it works and it doesn't work, whatever. The coaching thing, it's a grind. Yeah. And for 7 to 10 years, you may not get your chance, to just be perfectly honest. And so, you are grinding, and you've got to go all in and grind, and you got to work when you are, again, GAing for $900 a month in 2013 to now being obviously an OC. Like, you're grinding the same. You have to decide, when that level of commitment, and in my mind, the good ones do it at the start. But to answer your question, I actually did get to see this question before, and I did want to share this because I feel like it's totally not in regards to football, but our biggest adversity. And I will keep it as real as it comes. The people that know me are like, you keep it a little too real, Shalin.
And by the way, I wish I'd met you a long time ago. You're incredible, but
oh my gosh, thank you. But we lost 2 babies before I had my first one. And so when you lose a child in a pregnancy or struggle in some capacity with anything in regards to children, childbirth, anything, it breaks your world. It just absolutely brings you to your knees. And those years, and that was in, let's see, that was about 7 years ago. Those 2 were probably the hardest from a just couple standpoint, which I think, again, from a, like, when you look at your life from like a 30,000 foot viewpoint, if you're talking about non-football things, you're talking about the right things. You know what I mean? Because people get so wrapped up in this whole football world. They get sucked into it. They get sucked into the greed, the fame, the money, the this, the that. And it's like, none of that matters. None of it. Because your world is rocked.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you are brought to your knees and figure out, wait, what actually, like, which way is up? Which way is down? Like, I don't understand. Why? You're angry. As good as anybody, like, why, God, why, right? All the things. So I think that piece, to our story, and how, again, in those pieces of adversity, if it brings you closer to one God and closer to each other, then your heart's in the right spot. And I think, for us in our journey, those are 2 markers for sure. But I had to share that one because those things.
I'm so glad that you were so open about this.
I think more people need to be. And that's the thing. Like, I'm so passionate in regards to, again, women sharing their stories, because I feel like it's such a taboo topic to talk about. And it's obviously just completely heartbreaking because you don't know. There's so many questions about it. But I feel like if women talked about it more, they would also understand that their story would touch another woman's story, because there's so many like that. So if we were willing to step out in faith and say, you know what, God brought me through this for this reason. And it might be because I'm sitting talking to this woman who just went through this. And I'm like, I'm here for you. I may not know your story. I may not know necessarily, exactly what you're going through or how you're feeling it, but I have walked a hard road in whatever capacity I am, and I'm with you. I see you. You are fully known, you are fully loved, and I'm here. Like, that's all women need to hear sometimes in regards to that. So
powerful words. I mean, that I feel that obviously as Landry's mom, you don't even realize what other women have gone through. They to realize, to see it, and to be there, in some of their toughest moments, and to just open up and go, God is real, and he got me through this, and he is our source. He is our steady. So those experiences change us forever, and it gives purpose. And some of the things that we do, because we realize that this is much bigger than football. This or basketball or whatever sport someone's in. It's so much bigger than that. It's about him and his purpose, God's purpose in our lives. So we're going to switch over to some coaches' wives.
I love it. I'm in.
It's so funny that when I started this podcast, there was no NIL. There was no transfer portal.
No.
College athletics has changed so drastically in the last couple of years. Some for the good, some just changed, some's crazy, right? So how have you and your husband adapted to this change and handling the portal, having guys come in, worried that they're going to leave, all of that? How does it change your approach?
Oh, man. I think one of the biggest piece of advice that I got from a coach's wife a long time ago was be where your feet are. And I think that really applies to this question as well. Whether or not a player comes or goes, whether or not they're here for a year, here for 4, whatever it might be, they're going to get our 100%. Like, they're going to get everything. They're going to get our family, our kids, our chaos, our mess, we're going to come in hot, and they're just going to know that. But they're going to be loved. And, for me, I don't think we can necessarily change our approach of who we are, because that's just fake to me. Like, I'm going to be who I'm going to be, and I'm going to fully embrace that. And they're not, like, what they see is what they get. And everyone knows that in regards to Colin and I. Like, it's just, this is who we are. Like, take it or leave it. So from that perspective, I don't think we've changed. As far as like adapting, I think you always have to adapt. You are always ever changing. You are fluid in this business in regards to, approaches, things that you're learning, things that you're growing in, tactics or strategies of, again, learning the kids, right? Because we're the adults now. Wait a minute, what? Like, I don't even understand, right? Like, a second ago, I was like, wait a minute, 35 is so old. Wait, now I'm 35. Like, wait, I'm so confused, right? Like, how did this happen? What? So, like, my point is, like, I almost for a while saw myself as like a sister to these guys, right? And now it's like, wait, I'm more of like a mom figure, like this is a little bit weird, right? And so you're trying to find like speak their language, right? And vibe. And I'm like, I don't think I can do this. Like, I don't know. But again, my biggest thing in this whole deal is we are just who we are, and like we are as real as it comes. And I don't want to be anything less than that. And so, seasons can change, winds can change, but we will remain. And, anyone that comes through here, they will get, like I said earlier, they're going to get our 100. And it's like, what is that saying? Like, basically living and loving to the most, like, but you may get hurt in that process. Jabs and bruises in that. So if a guy comes and then leaves, it breaks your heart, right? Because you truly do, fall in love with them and they're a part of your family. And then again, I think it's hard because in this day and age, there's so many good things, to be perfectly honest, in regards to the NIL and helping kids out. And, there's so many things that I'm like, man, I wish I would have had that about 12 years ago. That would have been nice, right? Oh, maybe we wouldn't have been making $900 a month.
I feel like it really would have panned out in your favor a few years ago.
Better. But okay, fine, God. You probably had a purpose for that too. But anyway, you see what I'm saying? Like, I just think you are always ever adapting and ever changing to learning the kid too, because I feel like too, the kid is so different a little bit, as that changes. And so you're learning how to love them, how to reach them, how to touch their heart. And again, for us, we're doing this because we want to glorify God in all that we do, and then touch the next generation of men to raise up, men of truth and strength and kindness and goodness and all the things. And so like for us, football is the byproduct, right? We're loving these guys and trying to, show them that. And so you kind of just take the football piece out of it a little bit. Obviously it's part of it, but it's not why we do it, if that makes sense.
Oh, 1000%.
Yeah.
So what are some of those ways that you do try to show them your heart? I mean, you guys having them over to eat, what's your thing?
Yeah. So I make them treats every single week. Every single week they get a different treat.
During football season?
During football. Sorry, I did not add that. Yes. During football season, they get all the treats every single week, and it's always different. And they always have their favorites, but I never repeat, unless I know there are some that are like, oh, if we're winning, but I'm like, I just always got to change it up. It's just like, I'm more like, I get bored, so I'm moving on. And so I'm always doing that for the guys. Always trying to make their birthdays special, whether that be like, obviously calling them out, getting them embarrassed in some way, shape, or form around their guys, whatever. We have a Christmas party, and I always get them ugly t-shirts that they have to wear into the office, into meetings the next day. Nice. And then they have to take a picture, all of them, and send it to me for proof. Otherwise it didn't happen.
Love it.
They got to walk around. They got to go to workouts all in their little ugly t-shirts and be like, yeah, Coach Klein's wife gave this to me. It's awesome. It's so good.
That is
they fully embrace it too.
Oh, I would imagine.
It's awesome. It's awesome. So we do that, and we obviously feed them and enjoy that. And then we try to have them out in the off season, at least once in the spring. Colin usually takes them on like a fishing trip, and I sent my kids with him to do that. Nice. And then we always have them over here to the house. We just, again, we live in the country a little bit north of town. So 4-wheeling, ATV, nice. Bike ball, like shooting archery, shooting clays, all the things. Wow. So just kind of get a little bit immersed into the Klein country lifestyle a little bit.
Love it.
Again, just kind of make them a part of our family. And my biggest thing whenever, a young man comes and commits to K-State, I always make sure to get to know his mom, because I feel like, to me, if you can connect with a mom and know that, your son is one of the most prized possessions, obviously, on this side of heaven to you, and he will now be to me, and I will treat him as my own. We truly do take that so seriously. And so whenever, a mom needs something, she'll text me if she's like, hey, how's Will doing? Like, is he okay? It's like, yeah. Well, I will find out. I will find out. And I guarantee you talk to Coach Klein. Like, if you want to know about girlfriends, if you want to know about anything, you come talk to me, because I got it all. I got all the scoop. How do you know? And I'm like, they tell me everything, babe.
Yes, I know. It's amazing when you're fixing them dinner.
Oh.
And you're serving it up. You're like, all right, who you with right now? Who's your girl? Is she?
Oh, yeah.
Would your mama like her?
Uh-huh.
I'm from the South. We say mama. I said, would mama like her? And he's
right.
Like, okay, well, we might need to rethink that one.
100%. Does mama even know?
Mama know? When's the last time you talked to mama?
Right, exactly.
Usually before they get their food, I'm like, you have to tell me, or plan the next call for mom. When's the last time you talked to mom? Last time I was here. Oh, that has been a little too long.
100%. 100%.
Yeah. So you sound like someone that would love recruiting.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Isn't it fun and amazing? And I love every piece of it. I mean,
I absolutely.
Families, and it breaks my heart if they choose somebody else. And,
and you get so invested in it. Right. And like every single one, right. I'm like, one of my favorite lines is everyone's got a story and I truly want to know it. And so every one of those recruiting dinners, I'm like, okay, I'm just going to get to know all of you. And we just talk and talk and talk, and we connect. And then I'm like, they didn't choose us? Are you kidding me? Right. And then you just get it, like, you take it personally, like, what? We had such a great time.
Wonderful. It's less. Your entire family. Mom. It's such a deep connection.
So true. But again, It's like, I remember too, like I sometimes have to take a step back and disconnect a little bit because I'm like, okay, I remember the recruiting process too, right? Like they're trying. And again, I think too, being in the business now, I mean, we've been in here over 10 years. And so you get it, right? I mean, they're courting so many people, you're courting and trying, again, I'm present where my feet are at. I'm going to get to know you and give my 100, no matter if you're going to come here or not. And again, what you see is what you get. So to your point, I love it because I love getting to know people. I love interacting. I love hearing their stories. I love getting to know the sisters because they'll really tell me everything.
Oh, they will tell everything. That's the teller.
And then obviously the moms, I love getting to know them. But the sisters, that's where it's at.
No, I tell you, they know where the guy might end up choosing too. A little secret sauce.
If they give their stamp of approval, I'm like, oh, we're in.
We're in. Sisters, yes.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Isn't it amazing how close these players are to their moms and sisters?
It's unbelievable.
You don't realize. Now that I have a son, I see it too. I mean, he loves dad, right? I mean, there's nothing like connection. But you can see now that you have kids in the recruiting process, how close they are to their mothers. It's very
yeah. And it's interesting too, to kind of navigate back to even the NIL thing. I love asking, a mom and dad a question of kind of like, where are you at in this? Like where, how are you feeling? And some are, a little more heavy, like they want to lean on their parents a little bit more. And then some are like, oh, it's interesting to see too, how different families dynamics, right? And
there are.
And so but I would say the common thread to your point is there is such a soft spot for those dudes and their mamas. I swear. I'm just like, it is unbelievable. So if mama or sister give their approval, I'm like, we're good.
And it doesn't give you hope as a mom of a son that like, he's always going to love me.
Oh, I hope so.
I hope so, right?
I've got 3 of them and I really pray they do. I hope they remember me.
You're a lot of fun. I think you're not having a problem there. Okay, so you are a backbone of a highly successful coach. I mean, you guys just won the Big 12 championship. So what did you do? I mean, you played some part. You can't say if I had him on, he would give you credit, wouldn't he?
Oh, 100% he would.
Okay, so what would he say?
Do you remember earlier when I said there was that little balloon, called his head, and I go, pop? I like to keep him at 0, like bring him back down. And again, I think for us, the sacrifice that a coach's wife has to make, the time away, again, you are CEO, you are janitor, and you are everything in between in regards to running the house, running your business, running whatever you're doing on your side of the fence. Right. Mm-hmm. And I always say our worlds apart.
Yeah.
And yet trying to find what connects you during that time, for me, I think is probably one of our strongest suits. So whether that be, staying connected via text or like just checking in, like, hey, I'm thinking of you. Like, how are you doing? I want to know everything everything that's going on. I want to be the sounding board, just like I want, again, similar to like, I want my kids to come to me and talk to me about things. I don't want them to go somewhere else. Right. I want to be that for him. And so, if I can be that rock and that glue for him, like he is for me, to me, that gives him what he needs in a time that is, again, such high stress, such high pressure. I mean, the hours they put in, and, I feel like grace, understanding, going again, a little above and beyond to put yourself in their shoes, because we can't understand, nor can they understand ours. Right. And so having that mutual respect of, time and, just truly that partnership of doing life together, whether again, worlds are worlds apart, but you're still doing life together. I feel like, I feel like we do that really, really well. And I feel like we're committed to that process and having those hard conversations, even in the midst of a football season, right? Like it might be Friday night before the game and I am ticked at X, Y, and Z because like something fell through, right? And it's like, no, we're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about it right now. Like, I don't got to get up at 6 a.m. tomorrow. Like, that doesn't matter, right? It's how are we? And I swear, if we're good, you'll be fine tomorrow. Okay? Okay, you'll be fine.
You are not walking on eggshells.
You have no idea.
You're none.
I'm just saying it how it is. And again, like, what's nice about that is he never has to guess, and I never have to guess with him. And so that comes back to a little bit of the competitive, aspect of who we are. And so I think, again, in a coach's world, you're so competitive all the time that you kind of have to meet them where they're at, right? You kind of have to be like, hey, you going to play? I'm going to play. Like, let's go. And then you just kind of see who wins. I've got some tools to play that game a little bit, so.
Right. Okay, so like if there's a play you sort of maybe don't agree with, do you ever get to ask him about it, or do you just kind of
I don't ask, I tell.
Oh, okay.
It's more like, hey, what was happening on 3rd and 2? Because that was not it. He's like, yeah, I know. That was bad, wasn't it? I was like, yes. What were you thinking? Like, are you serious? Anyway, here's my deal is usually you can tell, and is like the moment they walk in, if it's a loss or if it's a win, where their head's at. Like, you don't have to wonder.
Yeah.
Like, they're not like women, right? We can like kind of charade it a little bit. Yeah. Like, how are we going to be, like, whatever.
Yeah.
I can look at his face and know, okay, we're talking or we're not talking, or like I can ask or I can tell, like the whole vibe, you just get it. However, I'm going to always push that envelope because I always feel like once we broach it and talk about it, but at the end of the day, I'm his biggest fan. Like, whether or not that 3rd and 2 play sucked, which it did, by the way, Collin, it totally did, but I'm still your biggest fan. You know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, you're your biggest fan. You're the biggest critic because you're in it together and you're in the trenches. But no, like, again, my football's in my blood. So I kind of do know football too. Like, some of our best dates when we were like dating for 2 weeks. That was funny. My point is, like, and then we were married, right? When he was in college, like, we're having date nights and he's watching film. And so he's teaching me all the things. And I'm like, okay, I know a thing or two already. Like, you don't have to tell me all these things.
I know, you're like, hey, my parents knew football.
Yeah, like my dad, like,
wow.
I know a thing or two about cover 2. Okay, let me just talk about that.
I know about the safeties rolling.
Right, exactly. Like, come on, bro. I got it.
I love it. You're so fascinating. Okay, so do you think that it changes the way, and I know you're like, hang on, my kids are only like 5, so you're making me make broad statements like they're in high school right now. But do you think what you've been through as, a daughter of a Hall of Famer, someone's been in sports, a coach is what? You were a student athlete yourself. You've breathed and lived all of this. Do you think it's going to shape how you approach athletics with your kids?
I cringed at this question, Kristen. I'm going to be honest, because you know me now for however many minutes we've been talking.
Right.
And I'm as real as it comes. So my best friends are going to absolutely call me out right here, because here's the deal. I say that I'm going to be the mom that, doesn't say anything and supports and, like, whatever. And then you see that meme on Instagram that it's like, you're the mom that's going to support, yada, yada. And then the match starts and they're the one like yelling, right? Like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? Okay. I don't know. Like, that's my answer. I actually don't know where I'm going to be on the spectrum. Like, I don't know if I'm going to be on 10, like yelling, or 1, like, oh, I'm just going to like sit here. Like,
I'm so silent because I know too
right
now.
100%. And so, like, to be perfectly honest, I don't know where I'm going to land.
Yeah.
I hope and pray that my heart will always, and I truly do believe this, whether or not my kid is not even into sports, right? Or, like, who knows, right? Every single kid's, into different things. Obviously, they won't have much of a choice just being around football and our life. So you pray that they love that, that and our lifestyle and all the things. But you want to fully, obviously, embrace if they, are all into music or whatever. Like, who knows? I want to encourage, as long as it's obviously something that's healthy for their development, I'm all about it. And so my point is, for me, like I said, to answer the question, I hope and pray that I'm, how do I want to even say this? fully supportive and fully on board. But again, I am raw and real, and they're going to get my opinion. So when I think something, I also don't want to filter that, if that makes sense. And then they're going to be like, hey, Mom, what's up? Because you're not saying anything. So again, it's like, how does that shape who I am? Let's just be honest. We're just winging this mama thing. Like, we're just trying to make it happen. We're just making it to the next day, and we're doing the best that we can. So I'll let you know when I get there, because I truly
so you're gonna do a follow up. You're okay with the follow up?
Yeah, I'm good with a follow up. Let me know.
Do a follow up. You know, when that oldest is about trying to
you what not to do, like all the things. You know, when I said I was going to do that, and I didn't. Oh boy.
My favorite thing is when our daughter's now in 12U sports, and him going to her game and experiencing, you know, height, but then some failure, right? Because no kid is perfect on the mound. She's a pitcher, and the way he feels, like, hey, this is what we feel like when we're at your game. You're able to like do something the next rep, but we're all like, this is what it feels like for coaches' wives to be watching their
100%
emotion. It's that balancing of, you know, I mean, during the game, I had to remind myself, okay, God, you are our source, and you know, this is going to be up and down. How do you handle those moments? Because you seem like you'd be pretty passionate, especially coaching right there at your alma mater. Has to be a little bit harder in some way. Yes.
I mean, when I see the game, let's be honest, I've got a baby strapped to me and someone yelling, I got to go potty and I need a snack and I'm hungry and I'm hot, like all the things. Like, at the end of the day, I'm like, did I even see 5 plays? Like, so I'm in the grind phase for that. But thankfully, a village of help. So I do get to watch quite a bit too. But yes, I am quite passionate and very vocal in regards to, like, I mean, I'm all in, obviously, in regards to that. But there's also this like overwhelming sense of peace. And so, you know, when you've competed at that level and you've been under those pressures, you know, in the midst of the battle, in the midst of the chaos, when it is like, you know, you're in front of 100,000 people at Texas and it is 3rd and 2, it is like you are chill as a cucumber, right? Like I am so chill, because whether or not I'm yelling or screaming, just from a passionate perspective in my soul, I'm right there. Right. And so I think you go into like game mode, like, again, my friends and family, it's so funny, but like, they make fun of me because like I don't eat a ton before the games, because like I just, you get those nerves, the butterflies, the like, oh, I just need kickoff to get here, because you're just like, again, another coach's wife gets that because they go through that, but anyone else would think I'm crazy. They're like, you're not playing, like you don't like, I'm like, this is my husband's livelihood. And by the way, we put our livelihood in the hands of 18-year-old kids. Like, what idiots are we? But like, oh my gosh, right? Like, it's unbelievable, right? The whole sphere of what we do. It's such a beautiful thing. The trust, the like, all the things, right? And so anyway, all that to say, I feel like I also think early in his career, I probably was a little more like on the edge of my seat and so invested in every single play, because it was so new, and like we were learning each other and how we were kind of going to navigate that. And now 10 years into it, I feel like just like you mature as a parent, just like you mature as, just a human being in general, I feel like I've matured a little bit as a coach's wife, or at least I hope I have. And I've had mentors come before me to kind of show me the ropes of that too, of, obviously being passionate, but also being a professional and understanding that, especially in Manhattan and it being our alma mater, there is a fish bowl when it comes to football. And so carrying yourself in a way that obviously, just, carry yourself in a way that is above reproach. So
I wanted to ask if you were able to enlighten the rest of the world as to what coaching families go through. What's one thing you would like to share?
Gosh, that is a loaded question. I could answer it a million ways. Sacrifice, devotion, time away, hardships, challenges, joys. I mean, it's like literally a roller coaster. I mean, it is a roller coaster from start to finish. And it's also hard because, like, unless you're in it, do you understand it? And so giving grace to people that are on the outside to be like, like, just like I don't understand your world, you don't understand mine. And that's okay. But then to the people that do understand it, you kind of have that common bond, right? And they just know because they're in it with you. Like I can look at you, you can look at me, and we just know, right? You just know what the person's about to go through. And it's like, oh boy, okay, here we go, right? Like we're in that, like, yep, camp starts next week, like it's go time, right? And there's just so much sacrifice on both sides of the partnership, in my opinion, that go on to make this thing go and to make it successful and to make it a well-oiled machine. And I think there's so much behind the scenes that no one understands. And I think, wives in general don't get the credit they deserve, to be perfectly honest, for the time, the late nights, the conversations that we're having with my 5-year-old son when he says, is daddy ever coming home? Honey, yeah, he actually does come home every night. We're just in bed, but he is working so hard to provide our family with what you have and the life that we have, and teaching young men, just like he teaches you, everything that you're learning and growing in. I mean, you're having those bridge conversations, right? You're having those conversations that to a 5-year-old, they don't yet get, but mean the world. And you have to have it over and over, or, handling disappointment. I think that's another big one. Like, when he misses something or he's not able to be there for, right? Like you are the one that's there and you are the glue, right? And you are the one that picks up the pieces. And not a lot of people talk about that. Not a lot of people talk about the back end, the behind the closed door of all the fame, all the TV, all the, money, all the greed, all the this, all the that, like all the success, all the wins, all the Big 12 championships, like whatever. It's like, actually, like peel back the curtain and let's actually look at the whole thing. And, I think, I don't know even what I would want people necessarily know other than, we love what we do and our sacrifice is worth it. It may look to someone on the outside like, why do you do that? Like, like they may have questions about it, but just, everyone has their why, right? Everyone in this business has their why. And, it looks different for every family. And I would just hope that people trust that why is, ultimately, I think in this business, there are a lot of good people doing really, really good things to try to truly, again, touch that next generation of young men for the kingdom of Christ. Like ultimately, I think there's so many people that are doing that. And coaches, other than parents, are one of the most powerful influences in a young man or woman's life. And, I look back, and if I'm looking at my life, I'm 35, I'm looking, and it's like, who am I going to name that are my impact people? And sure, it's a parent, right? It might be a mentor, but it's 100% going to be a coach. Absolutely going to be at least in the top 3. And so that piece too, to help, the world understand our why, that's why.
Very, very well said. When you have the low moments, who do you call? Who's your mentor? Who you've kind of taken some things from?
Yeah. So my mentor in this this business, I mean, recently has been Rhonda Kleinman. She's absolutely been someone that I have kind of just, she's taken me under her wing, told me that, like, I mean, she's been doing this way longer than I have, tells me, hey, here's some things to look out for. Here's some things to navigate. She's as real as they come. Again, I think the culture here of like just a wife group is so healthy. I think it is, again, another thing people don't talk about in this whole coach's wife life is the toxicity of the life sometimes. And people are like, oh, let's not talk about it. It's like, it's real though. Like, let's talk about it. Because the only way to get through this is to talk about it.
Come on.
Like, come on, right? Like, come on. Like, let's not shy away from that because it's real. It's real. And if we're not going to create a culture in our programs that we can talk about those things, then what are we doing this for? Like, truly, like, we're all just going to fake it. Like, that sounds miserable. And so I credit Coach Kleiman and Rhonda Kleiman for that culture. Before that, obviously, Sharon Snyder was unbelievable at just talk about a classy lady, talk about someone that has stood by and done her time and has earned those jewels in heaven, holy cats. And again, just been the glue to her family. I mean, I could name a million wives from that perspective. Who am I calling in season? It's 100% going to be someone on our staff, because if you're not in the trenches with them, you don't know, right? So we have usually there's at least 2 or 3 on staff, and they know who they are, but I'm calling them every Wednesday before every game, and we're praying, we're talking about it, we're doing all the things. And then I have an unbelievable support group as far as just best friends and community. That book by Jeannie Allen called Find Your People. I've found my people, and you can't do this life without your people. So I have about a core group of about 4 to 5 girls that are my bloodline. I mean, absolute just lifeline and bloodline as far as temperature checks, checking in on me. And most, like, some of them live here, but a lot of them have like dispersed. And so it's a text, it's a call, it's a FaceTime, right? And again, those months of August to, June are long. And especially obviously August to, January with the season. But then a lot of people don't realize off season is like, there's just no off season, right? It's never off. And so
I know. And then the signing
it's February. I'm like, really?
Our December's as well, a little bit different.
Yeah. What'd you say? Sorry, I didn't hear you.
Our signing days are different now than they used to be.
Absolutely.
And then portal opening a lot.
Absolutely.
May be a real stressful month where May didn't used to be so stressful.
100%.
I remember being on the road recruiting a lot, but I wasn't freaked out.
100%. Absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Last couple of questions for you. How do you stay connected during the season? It's texting. Do you get away for a date night ever?
So right now, we usually have a date in every Thursday. Usually during the season, we don't like going out a ton in this small of a town.
That's true. You're in a college town. I'm sitting in Miami with like 6.
Yeah, it's tiny down around here. So we really do enjoy the like kind of the refuge of where we're at north of town, in our country, little spot up here. So we usually have a date night in on Thursdays, and that is kind of our time to he has dinner with the family, and we kind of have usually he's working or whatever, but we're just with each other. You know what I mean? Like, we're connecting, we're talking, and then really it's texting because they're just gone so much, right? And so again, if it's just a hey, I'm thinking of you. Hey, how are you doing? Hey, I have something to, if you just ask a man, hey, for his advice or some wisdom, they think, it's like, oh, wait, what was that? I can fix that. I can help you. You know what I mean? So like, just again, working together, even like I say this all the time, our worlds are worlds apart, but figuring out a way to understand the other world, and whatever that looks like, whether that's, I always try to at least make one practice during the week. That's hard because it is school activities, all the things, right? And so it's just like chaos. And so trying to get to one practice, and let the boys, like, whether that's eat dinner at the practice and then run on the field with dad. He loves that. So we always do that. And then Sundays, this has become a ritual probably in the last 2 years or so. But basically we take him dinner at the complex every Sunday. We pack a little dinner and we like seclude to one little corner of the office, and it's just us for like an hour, and it's awesome. And he gets to see I almost said boys, like, that's crazy. I have a girl now. Sorry. The kids. Okay. Yeah. This will be the first time I've done it with her. So anyway, usually I take all the kids up there, let them run, let them like hang out. And just again, for him to get a little bit of a sense of normalcy, right? Because I feel like for them, they unplug so long that sometimes they're just in that grind mode all the time and they can't disconnect it. And so almost giving them a chance to jolt back into, oh, right. Just a little bit of a refreshment for them. because I can't imagine just the level of detail and the level of time and the level of commitment that takes. So trying to bring a little bit of normalcy to him too is what we do. So again, just trying to bring our world to him and his world to me, and trying to make those mesh.
All right, last question for you. Give me their top. I usually say 2 to 3 favorite memories of being a coach's wife, but I'm going to expand it a little bit more.
Okay.
And you're a player's wife during the pretty special moments of his life. So give me your top 2 to 3 favorite moments that you cherish and think back, oh, that was a fun day.
Okay, let's see. I've got 2 or 3. Big 12 championship against Texas as a player. That was unbelievable because we had just come off losing to Baylor the week before and technically lost a run at the national championship, lost a run at the Heisman Trophy. We kind of knew it all was gone at that point, right? And so the determination, the resiliency, the toughness of that team, of Collin, of the leadership of that crew, I'll never forget, after that game, just running up and giving him the biggest hug and just like, nothing can describe that feeling of like all your time, all your work, all your blood, sweat and tears, and you're basically just your life on like literally the line, right? You're just like going over a cliff with this guy. And then you just like cling to each other. And it's like, that's all that matters. Like, right. That's all that matters. And so that was, I honestly, one of the moments in this whole coach wife life that I will always remember. And it was not a fun day, was after the Baylor game. Truly. We got back and we were in a tiny little apartment that didn't even have laundry. Oh my gosh, that was wild. And I remember looking at him, he's just bawling, because he knew what he lost. Like he knew he lost it all. And yet it was like, again, the peace and God meeting us and understanding why we do what we do. And then to come back and win the Big 12 championship the next week, that was really cool. So that was awesome from a player's perspective. From a coach's perspective, that I'm telling you, that first game when he just walked out in his little polo, his little visor, and his khaki pants, and I have a picture of it when, again, he was a GA and it was his first time. And I remember I got it and it's blurry, but I'll always remember it. And I was like, this is when the journey begins, right? This is it. And that was 10 years ago. And, you're at the bottom. I'm sitting in the stands, like there's no suite, there's no like nothing. Like, it's just like, you're in it. Like we're here, right? Like, I don't know what this is about, but we're about it. And we're there. And I remember thinking, okay, like this is the start. I don't know, God, what you have for us, for him, but I'm in it. I'm all about it. I'm here for the ride. And so then fast forward 9 years, like last year when he was given the opportunity to obviously coordinate his first game in the Texas Bowl against LSU. I'll never forget that. I will never forget that. Like running up and just seeing the joy on his face of knowing, again, you have competed your best. You've prepared your best. You have executed your best and then competed your best and then left it all on the line. And honestly, you just let the chips where they fall. Like it doesn't matter win or lose at that point. You competed, you prepped, and you laid it out, and you can lay your head on the pillow at the end of the day and know that there's nothing else you could have given. And then to see obviously the reward on the other side, like that was so cool. So that was awesome, obviously. And then he got his first opportunity to be full-time coordinator this year. I'm giving you a lot here, but like
I love it.
The first, this was wild, but the first play call of last season was a touchdown. Wow. Like it was a literally jet sweep to Malik Knowles and it goes for 88, 89 yards. And I was like, well, okay, then I guess
this is working out.
It's pretty good. I like that play call. Let's do that again. That type thing. So I was like, okay. But again, it's the trials, it's the ups, it's the downs. It's not just like every one of these moments I'm talking about, like it culminates, right? It's the culmination, but it's really the low points, in my opinion, that really get you there. So like it's the ups and the downs of that season last year. I could literally go on of like, okay, this, and this point, like, you know what I mean? And gets it. And then obviously it culminates. And I am like this I mean, on like whatever row I was at Dallas Stadium when we were playing TCU and we were in overtime, we gave the game away. Oh my gosh, Kristen. I was like, this is not good. Anyway, I'm sitting there and I'm just like, also, I was like 34 weeks pregnant at that point.
You would have been.
Yes. Like I was very pregnant. Wow. So like hormones raging, like all of the things, right? And I do not cry. I'm like Cameron Diaz in The Holiday. Like I don't like, wait, is that a tear, right? Like just like not a thing. And I bawled after, oh my gosh, after we kicked that field goal and we won that game, I was like, this is it. Like
done the world.
That feeling of like, we just won the Big 12.
Yeah.
And yeah, going down on that field and just, I think I hit 5 people on my way to just jump in his arms. And I was just like, it was awesome.
Wow.
It was awesome. So
wow.
Yeah,
thank you so much. That's incredible. All right. Fast 6 questions for you. I think I have 6 for you today.
Okay.
What's the last book you've read?
Find Your People by Jeannie Allen.
Coach surprises you, walks in the door with concert tickets. What would be printed on the ticket?
Cody Johnson.
If you could have dinner with someone other than family, current or from history, who would that be?
Oh, Rahab from the Bible.
Wow. Okay. You get a night. Boy, you can tell where I'm from. You get a night alone. What show would you binge watch?
Suits all day, every day.
Go-to meal to cook.
Mexican. I literally could live and breathe on Mexican food.
And what sport can you beat Coach Klein in?
Everything. Let's just be real, Kristen. Like everything but football, I can beat him in. It just depends on, everything else. But no, if I was really being real,
free throws, 3-pointers.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Absolutely. Basketball, like in my sleep. There's not a lot I'm not going to at least give him a run for his money in. Like, he ain't going to just get a victory. Like, come on. No. I'm not even going to say that because, like, I can't even, like, I'm not competitive at all, obviously.
I've had so much fun over the past hour. Thank you so much for sharing your stories, your time. This has been incredible. You've encouraged me the most, so thank you.
Well, thanks, Kristen, for having me. And I absolutely applaud you for everything that you're doing with your podcast, with your life, with your testimony. And I'm encouraged by your story. I'm encouraged by, who you stand for, being Jesus, and the life that you live and the mom that you are. So I'm blown away by you. And I'm excited to get to know you a little bit more too.
Thank you so much. You're going to make me cry over here. Thank you.
This podcast is brought to you by Ruler of Hope. Ruler of Hope is a nonprofit that supports medically fragile children. If you'd like to make a tax-deductible donation, you can use Venmo at Ruler-Hope or online at rulerofhope.org.
For a replay of this episode or previous episodes, visit coacheswifelife.org and follow us on social media at Coaches Wife Life.